I'm delighted that I can be with you. My first career was I had founded and run a company in the Boston area with several MIT professors. They were the technical brains, I was the business person. The company subsequently become quite successful, but I always had wanted to be a teacher. So when the company hit its stride and I was hitting age 40, just decided if I was going to do it, I'd better do it. So I put our number 2 person in charge, and I bailed out and became a doctoral student all over again with 5 kids. It's kind of stupid looking back on it. As I left the company to become an academic, I brought with me a set of puzzles related to innovation. The first one was, if you look across the sweep of business history, most companies which at one point were widely regarded as unassailably successful, a decade or 2 later you found them in the middle of the pack and often at the bottom of the heap. Why is success so hard to sustain was the first question I brought. And the second was quite related to it, it turns out, and that was, I wonder why innovation seems to be so risky and unpredictable. Peter just gave quite a chronicle of the riskiness and increasing expense of innovation in this industry. Whenever venture capitalists put money into a company, they think it will be successful, but statistically only 1 out of 10 make it. So the pharmaceutical discovery industry, the venture capital industry, have really structured themselves to hedge their bets against the alleged unpredictability of innovation. And part of the puzzle that I brought with me was, I wonder if it really is intrinsically so unpredictable as the data suggests. And so I've just been burrowing away for 17 years now as an academic, trying to understand these problems of innovation. About 10 years ago, I was just minding my own business and got a visit from 2 people. One, Jerry Grossman, was the CEO of the Tufts New England Medical Center in Boston, one of our big teaching hospitals. Another, Elizabeth Armstrong, was a professor on the faculty of the Harvard Medical School. And both of them had the same sales pitch to me. Basically it was, everybody's been trying to figure out why healthcare is becoming progressively more expensive and less accessible. At their core, these are all problems of managing innovation. And instead of studying healthcare to reach conclusions about healthcare, what if you joined with us to try to examine the industry through the lenses of your research on managing innovation? Maybe you'd be able to see a few things that others haven't been able to see with that perspective. And so I signed up because it was too high an impact of an opportunity for me to pass up. And as Leslie mentioned, we just published a book called The Innovator's Prescription. As a general theme of the book, it is, how can we take something that has become so expensive and so inaccessible and transform it into an industry that offers high-quality services at much lower costs and much greater convenience. And chapter 9 of the book is a book on looking at the future of the pharmaceutical industry through the lenses of our work. And so what I'm going to try to do is to try to get ourselves back on track. I won't have time to do everything I'd hoped to do, but explain a couple of models from my research that seem salient to healthcare in general and pharmaceuticals in particular, and then apply them to these questions as best I can. So I'm going to plot on the vertical axis here the performance of a service or a product over time. There are 2 elements of the model that emerged in our research on innovation that seem relevant here. The first is that in every market there is a trajectory of performance improvement that customers can use. There's a distribution of customers around that trajectory, so at the high end, very demanding people who will never be satisfied with the best you can give. At the low end of every market, simple people with simple problems who can be overserved by very little. So that's the first element of the model, is that in every market there is a trajectory of improvement that customers can use. Now the second element of the model is that in each market there is a different trajectory of improvement that innovating companies provide as they keep introducing better and better products. The most important finding about this is the trajectory of technological progress almost always outstrips the ability of customers to use the progress. And a good way to visualize that is if you go back on the left-hand side of the graph in the mid-1980s, remember how often when you were first learning to do word processing on those early personal computers, you remember how often you had to stop your fingers to let Intel's 286 chip catch up? Because the world's fastest processor wasn't fast enough to keep pace with your fingers. But as Intel kept moving up that blue trajectory, making faster and faster chips, a few years ago when they introduced their 3 gigahertz Pentium 4, they had shot way beyond the speed that most customers in mainstream applications could use. Now, some of the innovations that help companies move up that blue trajectory are just the simple incremental year-to-year engineering improvements that everybody grinds out well. Others of these, though, are dramatic breakthrough improvements. For example, in telecom, the transition from analog to digital and digital to optical cost billions and billions of dollars and thousands of the careers of the world's best scientists. But it turns out that the breakthrough improvements and the incremental ones have the same basic purpose by the companies that implement them, and that is what they're trying to do is sustain that trajectory of improvement as it exists in the market that they're serving. What we found is that almost invariably, the companies that lead their industries on the left-hand side of the chart before these battles of sustaining innovation began find themselves still on top of the industry when those battles are over. And it really does not matter technologically how difficult it is. It just seems that if the purpose of the innovation is to help the leaders in the industry make better products that they can sell for better profits to their best customers, they always figure out how to get it done. We observed, though, that there was a different kind of innovation that on occasion came into an industry. We called this one a disruptive innovation. We used that word disruptive not because it was a breakthrough improvement, but instead of sustaining that trajectory, it disrupted it by bringing to the market a product that actually wasn't as good as the ones that the leaders were selling up on the blue trajectory. But this one was a lot simpler, a lot more affordable, and could take root in an unattractive application at the bottom of the market and then improve to the point that it intersected with the mainstream customers' needs later. It turned out in our research that almost invariably an entrant company came in, took that disruptive path, and then killed the incumbent leaders. So what it says is the odds are very different in these two types of innovations. If what is at issue is who's going to win in the battle of making better products that can be sold for better profits to the best customers of the leaders, I always will bet on the leader. But if the question is, who's going to transform the industry by bringing to the market a simpler, more affordable product, always I will bet that the leaders will lose, unless they really follow the prescription that I hope we have been able to offer them.